In the quaint town of Pine Hollow, nestled between dense forests and rolling hills, the nights were always serene, but not for everyone. Maggie, a college student, had recently moved into an old Victorian house at the edge of town. She loved its charm, creaky wooden floors, large windows, and a sprawling attic filled with antiques. It was the perfect place to focus on her studies, or so she thought. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Maggie was sitting at her desk, engrossed in a history book. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, but inside, the warmth of a crackling fire provided comfort. Suddenly, she heard a faint whisper, almost inaudible, but distinctly real. "Who's there?" Maggie called out, her voice quivering. Silence answered her. Dismissing it as her imagination, she returned to her book. Minutes later, the whisper came again, this time clearer. "Help me." Maggie's heart raced. She stood up, clutching her phone, and cautiously moved towards the attic stairs. Each step she took creaked louder than the last. The attic door, slightly ajar, seemed to beckon her. She pushed it open and was hit by a rush of cold air. Inside, the attic was dimly lit by the moonlight streaming through a small window. Dust particles danced in the air, and the scent of aged wood filled her nostrils. Maggie's eyes scanned the room until they settled on an old, ornate mirror leaning against the far wall. Approaching the mirror, she noticed something strange. The reflection showed her, but there was something else, an outline of a figure standing just behind her, its features obscured in the darkness. She spun around, but there was no one there. "Help me." The whisper echoed again, this time louder and more desperate. It seemed to emanate from the mirror itself. Maggie took a step back, her breath quickening. As she did, the figure in the mirror moved forward, its shape becoming more defined. It was a woman, her face pale and eyes hollow, dressed in a tattered white gown. The ghostly figure raised a hand, pointing directly at Maggie, and mouthed, "Find me." Terrified, Maggie fled the attic, slamming the door behind her. She raced downstairs, heart pounding, and grabbed her phone to call the local historian, Mr. Turner, who had told her tales of the house's past. "Mr. Turner, there's something in my attic. A ghost, I think," Maggie exclaimed. After a pause, Mr. Turner replied, his voice grave. "Maggie, that house has a dark history. The original owner's wife disappeared without a trace. They say her spirit still roams, seeking someone to uncover the truth. Be careful, and whatever you do, don't go back to the attic alone." As Maggie hung up, she felt a chill run down her spine. The whispers had stopped, but the feeling of being watched lingered. Determined to uncover the mystery, she knew she had to dig deeper into the history of Pine Hollow and the secrets the old house held. Little did she know, the ghost's plea for help was just the beginning, and the true terror lay in what she would uncover next. Asterisk, asterisk, whispers in the shadows, asterisk, asterisk. Maggie couldn't sleep that night. The whispers and the ghostly figure haunted her every thought. The next morning, she headed to the Pine Hollow Library, determined to find out more about the house's history and the mysterious disappearance of the original owner's wife. The library was old, its walls lined with dusty shelves filled with books that seemed untouched for decades. Maggie approached the librarian, Mrs. Whitmore, an elderly woman with sharp eyes and a knowing smile. "Excuse me, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm looking for information about the old Victorian house on the edge of town," Maggie said, trying to keep her voice steady. Mrs. Whitmore's expression turned serious. "Ah, the Blackwood house. Many have asked about it, but few dare to dig too deep. What are you looking for?" "Anything about the original owners, particularly the wife who disappeared," Maggie replied. Mrs. Whitmore nodded and led Maggie to a secluded corner of the library where old town records were kept. She pulled out a dusty ledger and began flipping through the pages. "Here," she said, pointing to a faded entry. "Jonathan Blackwood and his wife, Eleanor. Eleanor vanished one stormy night, and Jonathan was never the same. Some say he went mad with grief, others whisper of darker secrets. Maggie scanned the page, noting the date of Eleanor's disappearance, October 31st, 1893. She found a mention of a diary kept by Jonathan, rumored to be hidden somewhere in the house. "Do you know anything about a diary?" Maggie asked, her curiosity piqued. Mrs. Whitmore's eyes narrowed. "If the diary exists, it might hold the answers you seek. But be warned, dear. Some things are best left undiscovered." Undeterred, Maggie thanked Mrs. Whitmore and hurried back to the house. She spent hours searching the attic, the creaky floorboards, and behind the old furniture, but the diary remained elusive. Just as she was about to give up, she noticed a loose floorboard near the mirror. With trembling hands, Maggie pried the board loose and found a small, leather-bound book. It was the diary of Jonathan Blackwood. She opened it, the pages brittle with age, and began to read. The entries started innocuously enough, detailing daily life in the Victorian era. But as she flipped through the pages, the tone grew darker. Jonathan wrote about Eleanor's worsening health, her strange behavior, and the whispers she claimed to hear at night. One entry caught Maggie's eye. Asterisk, asterisk, October 30th, 1893, asterisk, 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 Eleanor has taken to wandering the house at night, speaking to shadows. She insists someone is calling to her, begging for help. I fear for her sanity, and my own. I have locked her in the attic, hoping to keep her safe, but the whispers grow louder. Asterisk, the next entry was smeared with ink, the handwriting frantic. Asterisk, asterisk, October 31st, 1893, asterisk, 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 Eleanor is gone. I found the attic door ajar, the mirror shattered. There was no sign of her, but the whispers, they are real. They come from the mirror, calling for her, calling for me. What have I done? Asterisk, Maggie's blood ran cold. The mirror in the attic had something to do with Eleanor's disappearance. She had to find out more. She placed the diary in her bag and decided to explore the attic again, but this time, she would not be alone. She called her friend, Sarah, and explained everything. Sarah, though skeptical, agreed to help. That evening, armed with flashlights and the diary, they climbed the stairs to the attic. As they entered, the air grew colder. Maggie placed the diary on the floor and stood before the mirror. Sarah shined her flashlight on the reflective surface, but it didn't show their reflections. Instead, it showed a shadowy figure, the ghostly form of Eleanor Blackwood. "Help me," the whisper echoed, sending chills down their spines. "Eleanor, what do you need? How can we help you?" Maggie asked, her voice shaking. The ghost's eyes met Maggie's, filled with sorrow and desperation. Eleanor raised a hand, pointing to the broken floorboard. Maggie and Sarah exchanged a glance before kneeling to investigate. Beneath the floorboard, they found a hidden compartment containing a locket and a crumpled letter. Maggie unfolded the letter, the paper fragile and yellowed with age. It was a note from Eleanor to Jonathan, written the night she disappeared. Asterisk, Jonathan, my love. Asterisk, asterisk, I have discovered the source of the whispers. There is a spirit trapped in the mirror, a young girl who died here long before us. She seeks release, but I fear I cannot help her alone. If you find this letter, know that I tried to save her. Forgive me. Asterisk, Eleanor. As they read the letter, the attic grew colder, and the whispers intensified. The ghost of Eleanor seemed to grow more translucent, her form fading. "We have to do something," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. Maggie clutched the locket, realizing it must belong to the trapped spirit. "Maybe if we return this to its rightful owner, the spirit can be freed." With renewed determination, they placed the locket on the mirror's surface. The whispers ceased, and the air grew still. The ghost of Eleanor smiled, a tear rolling down her cheek, before she vanished into the ether. For a moment, all was silent. Then, the mirror cracked, and a cold gust of wind swept through the attic, extinguishing their flashlights. Maggie and Sarah held their breath, waiting for what felt like an eternity. When the lights flickered back on, the attic was empty. The mirror lay shattered on the floor, and the oppressive feeling that had once filled the house was gone. They had done it. They had freed the spirits trapped in the mirror. But as they descended the attic stairs, Maggie couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The house held many more secrets, and she was determined to uncover them all. Asterisk asterisk, whispers in the shadows asterisk asterisk. The days following their encounter in the attic were strangely calm. The house no longer felt oppressive, but Maggie couldn't shake the sense that there was more to uncover. She delved deeper into the diary, hoping to find more clues about the spirits and the house's history. One evening, as she was reading an entry dated November 2nd, 1893, a passage caught her eye. Asterisk, I have buried Eleanor's locket in the garden, beneath the old oak tree. She always loved that spot. I pray her spirit finds peace. Asterisk, Maggie felt a pang of guilt. Had they truly freed Eleanor, or was her spirit still tethered to the house, waiting for the locket to be returned to its rightful place? She decided to visit the garden and dig beneath the old oak tree. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow over the garden as Maggie made her way to the oak tree. She brought a small shovel and began digging at the base of the tree. After several minutes, she unearthed a small, rusted box. Inside was a tarnished silver locket, identical to the one they had found in the attic. Suddenly, a cold breeze rustled the leaves, and Maggie felt a presence behind her. She turned to see the faint outline of a young girl, her eyes wide with sadness. This must be the spirit Eleanor had written about. Is this yours? Maggie asked, holding out the locket. The girl nodded, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. Maggie gently placed the locket around the girl's neck, and the spirit began to glow with a soft, warm light. The sadness in her eyes faded, replaced by a look of gratitude. Thank you, the girl whispered before vanishing into the night. Maggie sighed with relief, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. She hoped that this act would finally bring peace to the house and its spirits. The next morning, Maggie awoke to find a letter slipped under her door. It was old and yellowed, the handwriting elegant and familiar. She opened it carefully and read, Asterisk, dear Maggie, asterisk, asterisk, you have done a great service to the spirits of this house. However, your journey is not over. There are more secrets hidden within these walls, and more spirits in need of your help. Trust the diary and follow the clues. You are the key to setting them free. Asterisk, asterisk, with gratitude. Asterisk, asterisk, Eleanor Blackwood. Asterisk, Maggie felt a chill run down her spine. More secrets. More spirits. She glanced at the diary, its pages filled with the sorrow and madness of Jonathan Blackwood. If there were more clues, they had to be hidden within those entries. She spent the next few days poring over the diary, deciphering Jonathan's cryptic notes. One passage mentioned a hidden room in the basement, accessible through a false wall behind the wine rack. Maggie decided to investigate. The basement was dark and musty, the air thick with the scent of damp earth. Maggie moved the wine rack aside, revealing a narrow door concealed in the stone wall. She took a deep breath and pushed it open. Inside, the room was filled with old books, strange artifacts, and a large, ornate chest. Maggie approached the chest, its surface covered in dust and cobwebs. She opened it to find a collection of letters, each addressed to Jonathan Blackwood. The letters were from a woman named Annabel, who claimed to be a distant relative of Eleanor. She wrote of a family curse, a dark force that had haunted the Blackwood family for generations. Annabel's final letter was particularly chilling. Asterisk, Jonathan, asterisk, asterisk, the curse has grown stronger. It feeds on our sorrow and despair. Eleanor's spirit is not alone. There are others, trapped in a cycle of torment. You must find the amulet and destroy it. Only then can the spirits be freed. Asterisk, asterisk, Annabel, asterisk, Maggie's heart raced. An amulet. A curse. She rummaged through the chest, finding an old map that detailed the layout of the house and its hidden passages. Marked on the map was a room deep within the house, labeled Sanctum. Determined to break the curse and free the spirits, Maggie followed the map's directions. The sanctum was hidden behind a false wall in the study, its entrance marked by strange symbols carved into the wood. As she stepped inside, Maggie felt a powerful, malevolent presence. The room was filled with dark energy, and at its center stood a pedestal holding a black, ornate amulet. The air grew colder, and shadows seemed to writhe around her. With trembling hands, Maggie reached for the amulet. The moment she touched it, A surge of darkness enveloped her, and she heard whispers of anguish and despair. She could feel the weight of the curse, the suffering of the trapped spirits. Gathering her courage, Maggie remembered Annabelle's instructions. She needed to destroy the amulet. She grabbed a nearby candle holder and brought it down on the amulet with all her strength. The amulet shattered, releasing a burst of dark energy that dissipated into the air. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a calm, peaceful stillness. Maggie felt a sense of relief and triumph. The curse was broken. As she left the sanctum, Maggie saw the spirits of the house one last time. Eleanor, Annabelle, and the young girl smiled at her, their forms shimmering with gratitude before fading into the light. Maggie knew her work was done. The house was finally at peace, and the spirits were free. But as she closed the diary for the last time, she couldn't help but wonder what other secrets Pine Hollow held, waiting to be uncovered. Asterisk, whispers in the shadows, asterisk. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, replaced by a calm, peaceful stillness. Maggie felt a sense of relief and triumph. The curse was broken. As she left the sanctum, Maggie saw the spirits of the house one last time. Eleanor, Annabelle, and the young girl smiled at her, their forms shimmering with gratitude before fading into the light. Exhausted, she returned to her room and collapsed onto the bed, falling into a deep sleep. She dreamt of a life beyond Pine Hollow, free from the weight of the supernatural, finally at peace. But when she awoke, something felt off. The house was unnaturally silent. No birds chirped outside. No wind rustled through the trees. Maggie got up and went to the window, only to see the world outside was cloaked in an eerie fog. She brushed off the unease and decided to explore the house one last time. Descending to the kitchen, she noticed the diary sitting on the table. Odd, she thought. She had left it in the sanctum. She opened it, and to her horror, the pages were blank. All the entries, the stories, the clues, they had vanished. A cold dread settled in her chest. She rushed to the attic, hoping to find some sign of the spirits she had helped. The mirror lay shattered on the floor, but as she stepped closer, her reflection twisted into a grotesque, mocking smile. The temperature dropped, and she could see her breath in the air. "Help me!" The whisper, now distorted and filled with malice, echoed around her. She spun around, but no one was there. The shadows in the attic grew darker, converging towards her. She tried to move, but her feet were rooted to the spot. "You freed us," a voice hissed from the darkness. "But you did not break the curse. You only released it." The shadows solidified into twisted, tormented figures. They reached out, their hands cold and skeletal. Maggie screamed, but no sound came out. She felt the darkness envelop her, pulling her into a void of despair and anguish. The last thing she saw was the ghostly figure of Eleanor, no longer kind and grateful, but twisted and vengeful. "We are free," she whispered, her voice echoing with 100 others. "But you will take our place." Maggie's vision blurred as she was pulled deeper into the darkness. The house, now empty of its spectral inhabitants, stood silent and still. Outside, the fog lifted, and Pine Hollow resumed its quiet existence, oblivious to the horror that had transpired within the old Victorian house. Maggie was never seen again. Her friends and family searched for her, but it was as if she had vanished without a trace. The townsfolk spoke in hushed tones about the cursed house on the edge of town, warning others to stay away. Years passed, and the story of Maggie and the Blackwood house faded into legend. But on quiet nights, when the moon was full and the wind howled through the trees, whispers could be heard coming from the old Victorian house, calling for help, begging for release. The curse lived on, and the house remained, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to uncover its dark secrets and fall into its trap.